What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to be ranking my top 5 football boot brands of 2024. Let's hop into it. In number 5 place, we have Adidas, who surprisingly falls at the end of my list. Despite iconic silos like the Predator and the Copa, which still exist today, I find that a lot of their models are lacking just that little bit of specialness that Adidas in the past has been known for. Boots like the F50, the Predator has sort of gotten better in that way, but things like the Crazy Fast and the Copa and some of the Copa Icon products as well just really don't hit that mark. Adidas continues to be a really big player in the market. I just don't think they're up to par with some of the other brands on this list. Now let's go through Adidas silos. My favorite from the Adidas brand is, of course, the Predator Elite. It is a fantastic football boot, amazing for striking the ball. The control frame does a really nice job gripping the ground surface, and you have options for AG, HG, and FG surfaces, which is fantastic. Of course, the main feature is that upper, which is the Hybrid Touch 2.0 with the strike skin technology on top of that, and of course, in an iconic design with the fold-over tongue. The X Crazy Fast is, of course, Adidas' answer to Speed, so that includes the Aeropacity Speed Skin upper with the Speed Skin Plus upper on the Plus model, and then of course you have the Aero Cage on the inside of that really create a super locked-in sensation. That being said, the upper of that football boot, despite the sole plate being excellent in my opinion, it really just doesn't give the comfort you would need from a modern football boot. The Copa Pure series kind of evolves what the Copa has been in the past with some modern features like the Fusion Skin midfoot and of course the torsion frame from the Nemesis line. Now, this is a football boot that I've sort of been about in the past, and that's something that continues to this day. It's a good football boot, it's fine, but it really doesn't come up even close with what the competitors are nowadays, which is the Mizuno and Asics products. The Copa Gloro is also Adidas' effort in the budget category, and although I do think it has an iconic design and they've come out with some really cool colorways, I just don't get the sense that that boot is on the top of their priority list, as the sole plate lacks any sort of stability or really specialness at all, and the upper is just a little bit too thick and disconnected from the ball, creating a type of experience that I just don't like very much, and I think there are way better options in that budget category. To round out Adidas' boot silos, you have the Copa Icon and the Copa Mundial, which are both modern classics, if you will, and take that sort of classic football boot route in a slightly different way. Of course, the Copa Mundial being the more long-standing classic with a thinner leather upper, while the Copa Icon is much more plush with a little bit more of a modern twist with that sole plate. Number 4 on my list is Asics. Now, Asics would actually hold a top 3 spot if their lineup wasn't weirdly available in different countries. I really love the DS Lite X Fly 5 series, but that's not available in Australia or in America. Asics doesn't really have a presence in the US, nor do they have really a presence in the UK either. So it's a very weird situation where you can get boots from Asia and import them, but unfortunately they're number 4 on the list because although their boots are excellent, they just don't have the widespread availability that all the other brands on this list have. The first of Asics' current silos is my personal favorite. It's the DS Lite X Fly 5 and X Fly 5 Special Edition. So in the regular edition, you have the premium K-leather forefoot with the synthetic leather in the midfoot, and then of course in the special edition you have the all synthetic model, which is absolutely fantastic. I actually wore the all synthetic model in several of my games last season with Flower City Union. They are the epitome of comfort, performance, lockdown, ball feel. They are just a fantastic all-around comfortable pair of football boots. Probably the most recent Asics review I did was actually of the DS Lite X Fly Pro 2, which takes the X Fly 5 and adds a little bit more of a lightweight speed boot fit and finish. The fit is a little narrower and a little more pointy in the toe box, and then of course it has sort of this hollowed out sole plate that exposes this mesh-like material that feels almost like felt in the sole plate. Really, really interesting. Obviously it's hydrophobic, so it's not going to absorb any water. So you've got this really interesting technologically advanced sole plate with that beautifully premium K-leather forefoot and the synthetic midfoot that creates just one of the most lightweight and comfortable speed boots on the market. The Ultreza 3 is a really interesting kind of middle ground between the X-Fly 5 and the X-Fly Pro 2, and really reminds me a lot of the 99-gram leather boot from Adidas. It's got a really plush and premium K-leather forefoot, and then it's got what they call motion wrap in the midfoot, which is essentially a very thin synthetic material that wraps the midfoot and the heel area, providing really good lockdown while giving you the plush touch in the forefoot of the K-leather. The Lethal Testimonial 4 IT is one of their most popular boots, and it actually is an interesting one because it's not just a football boot. It's meant for football, rugby, small-sided rugby, I believe, or 7-a-side, and then also for Australian Football League, which is called AFL here in Australia. The boots are used because they have a 10mm lift in the heel area, providing a little bit more sort of up on your toes sensation as you're playing in them. They are a fully K-leather upper. They are mega comfortable, and they have a really cool fold-over tongue that sort of sits a little bit out of the way and doesn't really get anywhere near sort of the touching surface, and so it allows you to have that iconic design without getting in the way in any sort of meaningful or annoying way. The Swift Strike is ASICS Australia's newest addition to their football boot lineup, and it considers basically comfort, performance, feeling. Although it's not really that good looking, I would say it's probably the ugliest out of all the ASICS boots, it does perform really well. It's got a really unique and interesting sole plate, and then it has a synthetic microfiber forefoot with what's called neck skin midfoot panels and rear foot panels, which essentially keep your foot really wrapped and locked in. It reminds me a lot of the original hybrid touch from the F50 in 2014. Coming in at number 3 is Nike, and although you guys know me to be an absolute fiend for the Phantom GX, I don't think that lifts Nike above the top 2 rankings. And the reason for that is, although they've been a completely dominant force in the football boot world, I just don't think in 2024, if you take all of their boots and put them into sort of an aggregate score against the other boot brands, the top 2 are going to take it over the sort of conclusive score of the Nike models. The first of Nike's current silos is of course the Vapor 15 Elite, which is their epitome of speed. It features the Vaporposit Plus upper and the AeroTrack sole plate with of course the iconic Air Zoom. Now, I don't fit in this boot at all, but it is an absolutely excellent product, and I really recommend it for anyone who actually fits in them. The Superfly 9 Elite is just the Vapor 15 with an extra inch of material around the ankle. The Tiempo Legend 10 is a fine football boot. I think if it was marketed as the CTR 364, it would have absolutely crushed, but because it doesn't really continue the legacy that the Tiempo name has, although the Flight Touch Plus upper is really nice and thin and has a great touch on ball, it's too thin, narrow to be a Tiempo, and I just don't think it carries that Tiempo DNA forward. The Phantom GX2 is my favorite of the Nike lineup, and it takes what was great about the Phantom GX1, makes it a little bit wider, which is great for foot shapes like mine. The only unfortunate part is they do have the Cyclone 360 sole plate, which from the Phantom Luna, which although it is a decent sole plate for FG surfaces, and by the way, if you're gonna play with that FG sole plate, only play on FG with it. The fact that they've included pretty easily accessible AG sole plates for that boot makes it a top-notch boot in my opinion, and it's gonna fit most people. The Phantom Luna 2 is literally just a GX2 with an extra inch of material on the collar. The Nike Premier 3 is Nike's addition to the budget-friendly category, and I think the iconic design and the fact that it's still leather, although it's not K-leather anymore, is great. They are going synthetic, which is super unfortunate. However, although the design is really nice, I just don't think they're up to the mark as far as comfort and performance goes. Number 2 is New Balance, which has crawled its way up to the 2nd position, and deservingly so. When the new Furon V7 came out last year, and along with the Tequila V4, and now of course we have the Plus models of each of those, New Balance is absolutely crushing the game. The 442 is by far the best model in the budget category, and I think the Hypo knit that appears in both the Furon and the Tequila are probably the best knit materials on the market at the minute. The Furon V7 Plus is New Balance's first of the 3 silos. It includes a fully hypoknit upper, off-center lacing system, a canopy which basically acts as extra bit of striking surface and helps with some lockdown, and a fully chevron stud pattern. That boot is absolutely incredible. I think it's got a wonderful ping to it when you're striking the ball. It's fantastic for players who really want to crush whip-in crosses, get long balls going, shoot on goal. It feels so amazing to strike a football with the Furon V7 Plus. The Tequila V4 Plus comes in both a laceless high-cut model and a low-cut laced model, which is absolutely fantastic. It reminds me a lot of what they could have done with the Magista Obra 1 originally. It feels very similar to that. Now, the hypoknit upper is incredibly soft, basically 0 break-in time. It's built around stability and control, so you've got really interesting texture patterns in all of sort of the major touch points of the football boot, as well as TPU rim studs around the forefoot to provide a really super unique experience when cutting and getting really agile on pitch. The New Balance 442 2.0 Pro is, in my opinion, the best budget option on the market. It still has a K-leather forefoot, a synthetic midfoot. It weighs basically about as much as any of the best speed boots on the market, and although the sole plate is a little lackluster, it absolutely crushes the other boots in this category. A quick honorable mention is Skechers. Now, Skechers came into the boot market last year with the SKX and the Razor, both of which are really interesting and very good football boots. They take sort of a first attempt or first crack unbelievably well. There is no way that really any other brand can come up against Skechers as far as a first attempt at a football boot. I think the SKX is very good for wide feet. It's basically a better shaped, better performing, better feeling version of the Nike Phantom GT2. And then you have the Skechers Razor, which takes kind of a lot of DNA from Vapor 10, from Nike, and a couple other football boots on the market, Furons of past, and really combines it into a very compelling boot in the speed boot category. Now, number 1 is Mizuno. Now, Mizuno is a brand that's sort of flown under the radar from about 30 years ago when they started up until probably 5 to 10 years ago. Yes, there were iconic players wearing Mizunos. Yes, Mizunos were out, but they weren't really readily available. And I think with what Mizuno has done over the past decades, basically they've just done micro improvements on the silos that they've had for 30 years, including, a couple boots that they've had for more like a decade as opposed to 30 years. And they've really made insane improvements to some of the boots that they have. The Mizuno Morelia 2 made in Japan is the first of Mizuno's current silos on the market that's readily available pretty much everywhere. It features the softest kangaroo leather upper of any boot on the market. In my opinion, it is the epitome of craftsmanship and performance put together. You have a wonderfully plush soft upper. You have a sole plate that's sure, it's fine. It's definitely better than some of the other competitors in that sort of classic boot category, but overall, it's probably the most comfortable boot on the market, period. The Morelia Neo 4 made in Japan is Mizuno's speed boot, and along with the Beta, the regular non-Beta edition features a premium K-leather forefoot and what's called the BF synthetic midfoot. Really nice deep lacing system as well, plus a stud pattern that's built around speed while also having conical studs. So it gives you the ability to move and play well on multiple stud type surfaces, and it really is one of the best speed boots on the market for most foot shapes because of how able you are to fit in that football boot. The Morelia Neo 4 Beta takes everything about the non-Beta edition and turns it up to 11. Now you have a knit-based synthetic material on the midfoot in addition to the premium K-leather forefoot, and then they've added a knit material in the lacing system area to sort of close off all the gaps, close off all the gaps of that football boot to make it the most secure and intense feelings of having a speed boot while also giving you the plushness and softness of the K-leather forefoot. The The Mizuno Alpha is their speed boot that's completely synthetic. It features a layered upper with a sole plate that's made with a Carvo shank in it, as well as the Enerzy rear foot cushioning. Now what that does is it basically allows almost no stretch and moldability to the upper, meaning if you fit in it well, it is probably the most locked in sensation of really any football boot on the market. Fantastic touch on ball, really sharp underfoot, and it comes in AG and FG, which is a perfect thing for those footballers looking for pairs or who play on both surfaces. So that is my top 5 football boot brands of 2024. Let me know down in the comment section below if you agree with that list, or rank yourself any boot brand you want to down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video if you got value from it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I am very, very excited to see what some of the new releases are going to look like, especially coming into the major tournaments like the Euros and Copa America. I am sure that some of the major boot brands are going to come out with some pretty wicked stuff. So remains to be seen, but hopefully we'll get some really cool releases coming up, and maybe I'll make a second edition of this video later on in the year. But for now, Mizuno takes top spot. I think from my personal playing perspective, I have a few boots that I tend to gravitate towards that may not be in the top 3. So maybe I'll make a separate video about that. If you have any questions about what I talked about today, leave them down in the comment section below. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see y'all in the next video.